Hey there, my fellow YouTubians. Welcome to the first of two videos I'm making on how I will be putting together my top 10 of the decade. Hopefully this will give you a better idea of which movies I'll be narrowing down on of the 30. So that will help you figure out which ones I'll be putting on the list and help you win a DVD. So, I know this is not exactly a film director's cap, it's more like a trucker hat, but there's an explanation for it. I'll get to that in a moment. There's four things that are really important to me, which I don't know, narrowed down, I guess, a little while ago as I was thinking about this. Four basic components to what makes a good movie. Now, first of all, a movie is basically a story told in visual form. Of course, a lot of it is through dialogue. That's very important. But it's storytelling, and the principal thing that's most important there is, of course, writing, the script. Now, the script does not just refer to, of course, how clever the dialogue is, how witty it is, or whatever. It's also in terms of plot structure, and story structure, and character development. A movie, basically, and a lot of stories, like movies such as plays and short films, what have you, even music videos, basically, involve characters that are at odds with each other. And what the good script does is it basically establishes a series of conflicts between the various characters and then, one by one, resolves them by the end of the picture. And that is basically the basics of it. There's a certain structure to making a film in which you spend some time setting up who each of the characters are, and then something happens and the characters are at odds with each other, and then there's a process by which they kind of deal with each issue as it comes up, try various ways of resolving the conflicts they have with each other until finally, in the end, it's pretty much taken care of. Now, the ending may be a positive one for the hero and a negative one for the bad guy, or vice versa, or it might be negative for everybody or positive for everybody. It depends. But the point is that the conflicts are resolved in some way, and there are very few movies in which they're not resolved. There's a few, and the problem is basically is that if you're going to break those rules, you have to know the best way how to. And that involves learning how to do them right in the first place before you start doing them wrong. But writing is something that I've been studying for a while now, formally and informally. And I can, there are a few movies which I sort of use as a guide, but there are a few scripts that I sort of go by as how that, as good examples of that. One of which is, of course, one of my favorite movies of the 90s, Seven. This is one of the old laser discs, the full-size laser disc, which is, very bulky compared to, of course, the DVD. The typical laser disc held only about an hour of footage per side, and this one holds like half an hour per side, so that you could frame advance through it. I know it's like super like Stone Age right now. But Seven was a movie that came out in September of 95, and after I saw this movie, I sort of started thinking more seriously about doing something creative of my own. It was very inspiring. And it had a lot of the qualities that I, really appreciate in films now. And so, anyway, I just thought you'd be interested to see that. The second thing is execution, of course, and Seven is big on execution as well. Execution, what I mean by that is the how the movie is made, basically. Direction, acting, visual effects, the score, cinematography, editing. Editing is very, very important. And if you think about it, editing is actually part of the writing process. In fact, the writing process goes on during the shooting as they solve different problems or find they can't get a particular shot, so they have to do it another way. Working with the dialogue, trying to make it flow a little easier. And of course, when it comes to editing, that's a writing process as well, as they sort of figure out what scenes and what bits of dialogue aren't absolutely necessary, and trim all those and rearrange things so that it makes more sense or it's just more interesting. And also execution refers to kind of the lack of distraction. Things that kind of startle you and are unexpected. I mean, unexpected is a good thing as well, but there's cases where unexpected things that seem out of place, if you know what I mean. a certain performance that doesn't quite fit in with the others, because the style is too different, or camera moves that are too distracting, or a score that is too intrusive. That's very important. If the score to the film basically just like sort of leaps out at you rather than sort of supports what's happening, that's all part of how a movie is executed. And so, yes, almost as important as writing, and sometimes even more so. The third thing that's really important to me in a good movie is innovation. Um, Obviously, a good movie doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. It can be, a lot like other movies as long as it's, done well. But innovation is something that's very important to me because I like to be surprised. I like to see something that is different, something that's done in a new way. And an example of this was a movie that I went to see in '98. It was basically a seven-character drama. And I watched the entire movie and really, really liked it. And then the credits rolled, and I saw the names of the actors listed next to their character names. And I realized that the character names I hadn't even heard. No one had mentioned any name of any character throughout the entire movie. And the reason for that is because the dialogue was written in such a way so that everyone in the audience knows who each character is referring to at any given time without actually ever mentioning a name. He is blah blah, she is I, that kind of thing. And that was pretty extraordinary. That was something that I hadn't seen before. It's very different. So I really admired that a lot. And there's a lot of different ways a movie can be innovative. There's the technical side, which is visual effects, and the types of cameras that are being used or what have you. There's stylistic innovation, there's structural innovation, and thematic innovation. And any one of these things you throw into a movie that's already really exciting and well made is, just going to make it even better. So that's very important. And finally, of course, probably one of the most important is emotional impact. There are many, many movies that I admire and saw that was really good, but what I really love is a movie that affects me emotionally, and Seven is definitely one of those. I was so blown away by that movie. I was just so jangled by it, made me so produced such an intense feeling of anxiety that I just loved it. It was like being on a roller coaster ride. And any movie that makes me feel the sadness or the joy, whatever, or makes me really scared or excited, and just really sucks me in and makes me forget that I'm watching a movie. That's a movie that's really, really, really doing well, and that's the whole objective, is to emotionally connect. It's just like, that's what David Fincher, who directed Seven, says, my job is to emotionally manipulate the audience. And it isn't often that a director is able to affect me emotionally. He may make a good movie or bad movie, but, if it's a really good movie, then I will be emotionally affected in some way. So that is ultra important. And since I've been a big fan of movies, and a good friend of mine from school has, we have, fiddled around with the camera and stuff, and made little short movies of our own, and we've done stuff that's more ambitious, but the point is, back in the day, he was calling it Johnny for Short Productions. And so I had this little hat made right here. And it's a trucker's hat, but the canvas is nice and big, so I was able to get a custom shop to stitch JFS for Johnny for Short on it, and I've had this ever since. This is a really old piece of item of clothing. I think I've had it for at least 20 years, if not more. So I thought I'd wear it today because my hair looks terrible. So anyway, that is part one. And these are the types of things that I'm, going to be, looking for in whatever movies I'm going to be picking for the best of this past decade, the one that's just finished. So stay tuned for part two. I'll be talking more on this, and the voting will begin on Sunday, January 10th. So stay tuned for that. Thanks. Take it easy.